when I tell people about the title in An Imperfect Men, it's interesting. Sometimes the women will have one reaction. They will say, "Oh, so you've met my husband," or "You're not telling us anything." And my male friend says, "So you finally wrote a novella about Luciano."
Not quite.
Anyway, and again, I apologize. I have to read from my iPad. The arm acts up from time to time. I opened the front door, and finally, a warm, sunny day. A day of bright yellow sunshine with a lazy blue sky over the canopy of budding trees. A day with the smell of fresh grass and young flowers popping up amid the English gardens peppering Wilson Park Road. My attempt want to call this morning a perfect morning. I take a deep, deep breath and slowly, very slowly, deliberately, between pressed lips, release it. And then it spoils. A woman's voice directed at me. I'm already on the sidewalk, eyeing Queen Street up ahead on my way to work, and I should simply keep walking, ignore this discordant chirp. But it is instinctive, stronger than me. Turning my head slightly, I see her. She is right between the two houses, pushing an unruly garbage bin. Our houses are the only ones that are in this neighborhood that are very close by in this neighborhood. And by the way, the neighborhood is Parkdale, so this is a Parkdale evening. So we're in Parkdale now. In this, the house on this small street in Parkdale are perched on a slant behind massive trees. This sleepy hillside stretch of street between King and Queen and steps from the lake is where I've lived my whole life. Hello, neighbor, she repeats louder, and in a way too perky voice for this time of the morning. I fully turn around and face her. It is my neighbor, who lives next door, at number 48, and who I don't really know. She's mostly a stranger to me. The proximity of our houses is the only excuse for our connection. But then, all the houses are close to each other in this neighborhood. The tree branches on each side of the street, when in full foliage, they arch toward each other and meet high above the road to make the whole area seem cozy and slightly claustrophobic. I don't know the name of this neighbor, and I'm fine with the anonymity. It's not that I don't like people. I'm shy by nature and don't do well in social situations. I either don't say very much, bordering on autism, or babble on too long, bordering on manic. I know most of the people on the street and her by sight. But like with all my other neighbors, I've done the polite salutation thing. A word or two, a quick wave of the hand, but nothing more. My trick to avoidance is to keep on walking while disgorging a few courteous words, which allows me to sidestep the awkwardness of a prolonged conversation. I'm not comfortable talking to people for the sake of just talking. Never was. Unfortunately, by stopping and turning around instead of continuing to walk, I'm now committed. Good morning, I say politely. Nice day. Conversation over, I quickly turn away from her. What happened to your arm? She yells, and I stop. I had momentarily forgotten about the arm strapped against my chest. I now feel even worse for not having completely ignored her in the first place, and for having added the nice day to my short greeting, for having implied that I was friendly or inclined to talk, for having misrepresented myself. In my defense, it was a beautiful day. Nothing. I fell down the stairs and sprained it. I yelled back. What? A car honks, and the subsequent squealing of tire makes it difficult for us to hear each other. Instead of accepting this natural obstruction to conversing and going back to her house, she leaves the bin at the curb and begins walking towards me, ostensibly to better hear me. I begin to panic. I sort out in my head what one can legitimately sprain in a fall, and how it might have happened. Did I sprain a shoulder, an elbow, or a wrist? And which of those would warrant a sling? Suddenly, remembering that last year, a colleague of mine said, I sprained my wrist, I decided on the wrist as a lie. But did he wear a sling? It seems silly to wear one just for a wrist. I don't recall he did. And instantly, I make another choice. I sprained my shoulder, I blurt out. The traffic noise subsides and my voice is louder than it needs to be. And I don't like it. I'm not a loud person. So standing in front of me, I get to see my neighbor up close. It was the first time since she moved in next door. She and the man, who I assumed was her husband, moved in last fall. And with the arrival of a Toronto winter and my tendencies to avoid people, we had not introduced ourselves. Does it hurt? She asked in an overly sympathetic voice that I'm not sure is any better than the earlier perkiness. But it is a warm tone, which makes it difficult to ignore. She stares at my arm and its makeshift sling as she says that. Maybe I should have used my mother's old silk scarf to anchor my arm to my chest. I stare back and scrutinize this woman. Okay, I'll skip a few pages and go to what happened that morning. Not sure really myself what happened. I was in the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror, thinking about life. I stare at the mirror. My imperfection is not obvious to people, which is another problem. It might make things easier if it was. Marie might have understood me better. I met Marie at a Christmas party given by a colleague a few years after Mother died. I'm a smoker, I tell her apologetically as we appear to have made a connection over a glass of wine and to get along. And I hope it's not a put-off. I like her immediately, but already I sound awkward. Well, we can't all be perfect, she says, putting me at ease. What if we were to kiss? I say teasingly, well, I assume you have a good supply of mints. She smiles, and I'm enamored. Sometimes later, Marie moved in with me, and all was well for a while. A couple months into the relationship, feeling safer than I've ever felt with anyone, and at her urging to be completely honest with each other, I told her about my obsessive fear of germs and about my immobilizing anxieties. What brings them on? Do I make you anxious? No, God, no, you don't. They're just there. Always have been. They never leave me. Marie was very sympathetic. She appeared to understand. Of course, I did not tell her the real source of this anxiety. I told her that I had issues with a silent but domineering mother and that I had not cried at her funeral. Marie said that I should go to therapy and get professional help, that I had waited too long and that a mother must be mourned. She used herself as an example of someone who had gone to therapy and helped her break the cycle of an abusive relationship. And she added to make weight to her argument that it helped her find me. She smiled. And when she said that smile that I had fallen for when we first met, I would do anything. She loved me and wanted me to be happier, to be problem-free. I didn't want to go to therapy. She gently pushed her brand of logic. If I loved her, I would go seek help. If I didn't go see a therapist, it meant I didn't love her. I was stuck. My mother had a proverb for that. She used to say, it's hard to make a choice between two blind dogs. And so I chose not to choose and to ignore her advice. At her insistence, and after months of feeling badgered, I agreed to go see someone. She even gave me names that she had gathered from her colleagues. I made excuses and postponed indefinitely. And you call yourself a teacher. I thought that education was about learning, solving problems. I never said I was a good teacher. She didn't like that flippant answer or any of my other explanations. The issue festered until fed up, she found someone less neurotic, less anxious, less stubborn, and left me. I was both sad and relieved to see her go. Unwilling to move forward, it was easier to live alone. I look again at myself in the mirror. You can't really believe that you're happy this way, even living alone. I stand there longer than I usually do, focused on my eyes, on the face in the mirror, staring straight ahead, using imaginary blinkers and trying to internalize that I have to get to work, that this self-flagellation, this talking to myself is useless and won't resolve anything. Come on, voice it. Voice what your real problem is. You know you feel better after you do. I find it hard to breathe. The walls are closing in. It's always the same. I'm not going to see a shrink. I'm not going. I'm very clear on that. You don't have to go. Don't go see a shrink. Just admit your problem. Say it. The truth is that I know what the problem is. Always have, ever since I can remember. No voicing it can make it better, can make it disappear. No shrink can make it go away. I'm stuck with it, and that's the only truth. I know what therapists will say. Their opinions are splashed all over the internet. There are a few analysts who might take my side, and those are often castigated by their own colleagues. The internet groups that I follow on sites that deal with these issues are full of examples of real people that have gone to therapy and have wasted their time. It might have prevented a few suicides, and for that I'm grateful, but it did not solve their fundamental issues, those issues facing them. Of that, they were very clear. It was unanimous, and I believed them. I'm not suicidal, never been tempted, but if I ever am, I will seek help. No, I'm not seeing a shrink. Planted in front of the mirror, I'm back at staring at myself, refusing to turn the tap on, refusing to shave, refusing to begin a morning routine that I've followed in this bathroom ever since I was a teenager. The mirror keeps up the stare, daring me to blink first. I usually avert my eyes at this point, but not this morning. I feel a slight twinge on my left side. You might want to try something different. No, I'm fine. You're obviously not so fine. I open the mirror door to get my razor. My stone-like face continues to stare me down. As the door slowly swings to the right, it opens about a third of the way, and I abruptly stop. I put the razor down. With my right hand, I partially open the cabinet door and close it. I do it again and again and again. I have an idea. So I'll stop right here so that you guys have to buy the book to see what the idea is.